right, I think we're live. I think we're good. I think we're going. Here we go. Let's see here. Ham. I hope I don't burp a lot this week, but you never know. So here we go. Howdy do, folks. Raymond the Amishcomic here, streaming live from our living room. The lovely Mrs. Comic is in the chat to uh, toss any of your questions at me or chill you out if you go nuts, or let me know if I'm frozen or if I'm Mickey Mouse ears or that kind of happy horse shit. It is Tuesdays live at 7:30. I love this because Tuesdays are the worst. Tuesdays suck batshit balls, and I think I may need to have a little jingle about this. Tuesdays suck. Tuesdays suck. Make them suck less. Right by now. That's a terrible song, but I should have wrote that before I got here. So here we go. Hope everybody is doing well, and I was going to have a theme for all my 7:30 live stream shows. Oh, also, first and foremost, send us money for crying out loud, mostly to buy cat food for the neighborhood cats and stuff. This is it's been a brutal September for me as far as stand-up comedy goes, so your donations are always appreciated. Clee's sister's always in there with the wahoo. Richter's in the house, and we got Jay. I can't see my old eyes, but he was asking some good questions about Harrisburg last week. I think it was what was going on there. Kevin Keller's in the house. So here we go. Before I get too far off the railroad tracks here, is that Mrs. Comic and I, silly and immature, we do play Pokemon Go, and it only becomes silly when I realize what we're doing. There's this thing. Thank you, Richter. Nice donation. There's this thing where there's poke stops, and they live in cartoon land. They have them in churches, schools, stores. Sometimes have them. There's a whole bunch downtown, but there's tasks for us to do dumb shit. And if we ride around and we can tell if somebody's playing Pokemon Go. We can also tell if people don't understand that I am playing Pokemon Go because they might be afraid and want to call the cops. There's this thing where you're supposed to scan a poke stop, and it could just be like a fire hydrant. So you actually got to take your phone and then just walk around the fire hydrant. It's not weird at all, and especially it's probably a kid's game. But more and more people are driving around because you got to drive slow so it knows that you're walking. That's a deception, but I have more important things to do than getting my Pokemon Go miles. Here, let me catch my Toxic Crunk. Right there he is. Have some more bourbon. Well, $5 bourbon, Richter, that's the bottom shelf right there, but this is actually, I can't say it, LaCroix. It's a soda substitute. It's sparkly water, little raspberry in there. I'll be drinking afterwards. So as I was babbling along here, I had wanted these to have exact themes. And tonight, I've been doing writing. I got some Win the Barber stories going for the book. I'm back into book writing. Made some notes for the Amish ghost story. But I realized that tonight I did not have a theme. So I actually wrote that in my notebook. And I'll tell you exactly what I wrote. Well, not exactly, because I'm not just going to read it. Just to prompt me what I wrote before. Okay, so we know that Tuesdays suck. And that's why we're doing this. So I didn't have a theme tonight. When I wrote that down, I got actually pissed off at myself because it reminded me of comedians who talk to the audience and they don't really have a plan. They talk to the audience, and that's a lot of reason people don't like going to comedy clubs, is because unseasoned comedians talk to the audience and they're searching for something funny and they can't find it. They get pissed off and they tee off and rail on the fan. And that's bullshit. That's a dick move. That's why a lot of people don't like going to comedy clubs. But what happens is basically this is um, someone terrible at it would go, "Hey, where are you from?" And of course, the person now is locked in terror because they were not expecting to be asked a question. They came to watch a show, and suddenly now they have to answer a question. And when you're not expecting a question, you're going to look stupid right away. You're going to go, "Hey, where are you from?" Me. Then they rail on him. Yeah, blah, 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 yeah, me. Yeah, well, don't you fucking know who we? And it just gets to be horrible. And what I noticed was I'm having flashbacks now from I do have a theme for the show now. It's going to be a lot of memories of bad things that happened on shows I was on, but to other comedians and sometimes me. Um, so ultimately, anybody who does that I've seen that's not good at it only has a joke ready if the person is from the town that they're in. So if they're in Scranton and they say, "Hey, where are you from?" Scranton, and then I don't know what kind of coal mining joke there is, or Lackawanna pothole forest, whatever the hell it is, state park. But if the person is not from that town, they never have a backup question, a backup goofy fun bit ready if it's a town that they're not in. So that's a bad way to fly for stand-up comedy. And one of those things that ever backfired was Mrs. Comic and myself and our daughter, however many years ago now, went down to Universal Harry Potter World, and we got some relatives down there, and so they worked in the park, and we got to go to a Universal Monsters, like a day fun kind of cabaret show with monsters and fun. There's kids in the audience and all that shit. So now the kid that would be my nephew, apparently, we hate to say the word shy. He just doesn't. He's the opposite of me. And shy is a dick move. Someone who's shy is probably just smart enough not to talk to fucking idiots. So this kid, I don't know what age he was at the time, 8 or 9 years old, and it's pretty early to decide someone's not in their out in their zone yet. So the point of that story is this kid was in his zone on this day with us. I don't know if I brought out the balls to the walls in him. So the guy in the Universal show went to the kid who doesn't really speak in public and just probably wasn't that happy about being picked on. Said, "Where are you from?" And the kid said, "Florida." And it got a huge fucking laugh because the guy who asked the question was used to dealing with tourists. Then apparently nobody was from Florida. So this guy got his first smart mouthy Florida. He had nothing to say. So when there was that silence, that's what got the big laugh. So this got me thinking about how horrible of a thing um, some headliners don't want you to talk to the audience because they talk to the audience. One of the masters is a friend of mine, Earl David Reed. We did the Black Amish tour. He talks to the audience. That's his thing. He talks all night, so he's well within his rights not to want somebody else on the show to do crowd work. It's called crowd work, but he makes it look accidental. But he has a plan, and it's fun to watch him work. He will say, "So what do you do?" And he'll have 35 jobs off the top of his head. Smart Money says whatever job they throw at him, he'll have some kind of zing for that. So he has a plan, and it makes it look easy. Young comedians, I've even seen older comedians do it. They just try and they try. I watched this comedian MC. That's another problem. If you book the club and you MC it, that's doesn't work that well all the time. So it was one of those scenarios. And this guy, he goes right down, and the front row is like theater, like probably like 15 seats. He went from one bump all the way down and didn't find anything funny. That's going to take longer than 15 minutes. Technically, his time was up, but comedians who do that keep pushing and pushing till they find something that's funny or a little bit funny. And then when they get to laugh, they believe their 15, 20 minutes starts right then. And then people are going, oh, we finally got a laugh. Now we can fucking leave. So that is a terrible, dangerous way to work, crowd work. I used to do, oh my God, I just remember this. I used to do one of the dumbest things in my career after my show. While I'm on stage, I'd finish. We'd have fucking Donalds and all this stuff, and I'd bow, and then I have like a Q&A. I'd open it up to let drunken assholes yell out incoherent shit, and it would piss me off, and I'd make a dick out of them, and it was kind of funny, and then it started to not be funny. So I can't believe I used to do the Q&A. Those used to get off the railroad tracks pretty good, and now I'll have some flashbacks about that. So it got me thinking, though. I've been doing this over 30 years, and I really love it. I'm good at what I do. Even if you don't like me as a comedian, that's not a problem. It's like, you know, sports teams you don't like, the players are still good. You just don't happen to like them. It's that kind of thing. But it gave me some flashbacks over uh, crazy shit that I've seen in my career with comedians on a show that we didn't really know. I could be booked to headline a club in Philly, and I used to work with a guy, another comedian, I won't say his name, but there's some of his stories coming up, and he actually happened to just live in the same town I lived in. And so a lot of these places, when they book you, they want an opener, and if you can bring one, that's great. And if I can bring one, someone I know I trust a teeny tiny little bit. Uh, why I brought this guy, I don't know, because that turned out I didn't trust him. I should have just said no. I don't fucking have anybody. I didn't know how nuts he was gonna get. So I've got some. I got some. So we would go. Me and this other guy whose name I won't mention, and there would be a maybe a house MC or somebody who owned the club and MC'd the shows. And so that's where the fun would be, because we had no control over them, and apparently I had no control over my opening act also. So it's more now than ever as I like to fly solo. I like to do a 90-minute show myself. Where is it? Sellersville Theater. It's coming up Boxing Day. This is a Boxing Day tradition. It's a Monday or a Tuesday night, day after Christmas, and a reason I love doing that show myself is it's a weeknight for one thing, and I'm assuming my fans want to see me. If you put somebody kind of half-ass on the show, you're only going to get a good opening act if you pay them, or if it's a good comedian that I love that I believe will do me a favor for shit money. But I prefer to fly solo, and the logic being there is that uh, it's a school night, it's a weeknight, and you also paid to see me. So the more me you get, in theory, you would be happy. So I'm excited about that show. That's on sale now online. ST94.com, that's Cellarville Theater. Beautiful venue, fantastic venue. But it got me thinking about all these things gone wrong over the years with opening acts. Now, I will not mention any names because that's being a dick. And if I do mention any names, I apologize. And actually, right now, I don't know what time it starts, but I actually tell you to leave my show and go see my friends on YouTube. Rich Voss is launching a comedy special tonight on YouTube. I think it starts at 8 o'clock. I tweeted at him. Let's see here. I love Rich Voss. I absolutely love him. Uh, Tuesday premiere, Tuesday 8. I should have put it in the thumbnail right there. But you could probably get a replay on that. I told him, I tweeted at him that I was not going, I congratulate him, but I'm not going to watch it because I have been unable to watch comedians for probably 20 years now. In fact, Well, when our daughter was probably in school, maybe junior high school, uh, eighth, ninth grade, I was coming down the end of me being able to watch stand-up comedy specials because she would actually warn Mrs. Comic, say, "Oh, there's a stand-up comedian special coming on, and I don't think he likes this person," and that's why I stopped watching because you sit there going, "That's not funny. That's not his joke. The person who wrote it, George Carlin, he'll never get credit." I just get too fucking mad about the whole thing. So Rich Voss is somebody that Mrs. Comic and I saw before I started comedy. We saw him over at the airport comedy club, and he was just starting out, and he was trying to do material. He didn't exactly know who he was yet as a comedian, and he got heckled, and he fucking annihilated him. He just ripped him a new one in a good, fun way, and that became his thing. So check out Rich Voss, not during my show, or if you have ADD, OCD, MOUSE, and you can watch two things at a time, put them on over there, but just don't let the volume leak into my show. I don't really know how you could do that unless Mrs. Comic starts watching Rich Voss. But friend of mine, that's nice.
Yeah,
Years gone by, I was fucking bitter and jealous when comedians that I knew had a cool thing happen. It's a wrong way to think, but you're like, what? What? There's nothing wrong with them, but when's my fucking turn? Uh, I stopped thinking that way. Everybody has their own path, and when it's my turn for a thing to happen, that'll happen. And Rich Voss is one of these people that I really love. Um, he's a straight shooter too. If he's at a club, I know that I'm going to that club, but I've never been there. I will tweet at him. Uh, well, again, I won't mention the name. This happened within the last couple of years. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be at the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo next month. How is that club? And he said, it's a shithole, and it might not even be open by the time it's your date. So, again, Rich Voss, gotta love him. Fantastic. Uh, Fun guy. He was regular on the Opie and Anthony show. And so there was me telling you to go watch other people. So again, some of the most horriblest things I used to do. This also makes me miss when I had gigs. I used to do a Thursday night show about twice a year at the Moorestown pub. Thursday night gigs are fucking awesome. They are just a fantastic thing. And within 30, 40 minutes of where I live, it would be fantastic. And they had it in their head that they needed an opening act. And again, the Thursday night comedian who will travel to Moorestown pub for whatever the hell they were going to pay him $50. I didn't. I said I can't. I really can't find anybody, and I'm not going to pay him out of my money. And if you want to pay him, you're going to have to get better than $50. Get someone decent. So that was a big mistake on my part because the guy that opened for me, he was a deadpan comedian. And you know what a deadpan comedian is? Like Stephen Wright is deadpan. I worked with a girl, Sonia King, brilliant deadpan comedian. They are actually almost dead. They say everything kind of monotone, and the laugh comes or doesn't. It's a difficult way to perform because if your joke doesn't hit, you got to kind of sit in a slow muck of silence and just rebuild the next thing. And so this guy was that, and he didn't know how to do it. Again, some of these young comedians that are trying to do like uh, Don Rickles abuse the audience kind of thing, that's fucking weighty shit. That's advanced shit. Rich Voss, that's advanced shit. So too is the deadpan comedian. So this guy was flatlining it, and I only ever badmouth comedians on my show like once in my life when I took the stage after them, and this was one of those nights because um, he was paid somehow separately or he was doing it free. I don't really know, but he was deadpanning it and he wasn't getting any laughs at all. The room was fucking quiet, and that becomes awkward. And this was a small room, 100 people in a small room, and then when it becomes quiet, it really becomes fucking scary quiet. So his big finale was he had playing a banjo and he dropped his pants and he was standing there with his boxer shorts and looking like the guy from Deliverance, and nothing. And that's when I laughed out loud in that room, because I'm thinking, man, if you drop your pants during your show and that's the finale and nothing happens, there's nowhere to go from there. There's nowhere to go from there. It's probably even awkward to pull up your pants. It was just made the audience so uncomfortable. I sort of believe they were now worried, because nobody laughed then, that the boxer shorts could be next and we could have a full Monty with the banjo down there. I don't know what people were thinking, but then his show just kind of ended, and he didn't even get applause. Like, they have polite applause, just we're happy that you're leaving. Uh, these are all reasons why I don't use opening acts for the most part anymore. So I could feel the tension in that room, and I came out, and I still to this day don't even know why I said it. I said, if it's any consolation, that guy's not getting one dime, $1 of your ticket money that you paid tonight. And that got a big fucking laugh. And I felt like a dick, but I would have felt bad if I would have paid for him. And so that kind of lightened the mood. Not that much, but teeny tiny little bit. So there we got the bad comedian boxer shorts banjo story. Boom, roasted. Now this guy that I put on shows with me, he was a good comedian and could have been a great comedian, but he had a big fucking arrogant chip on his shoulder, holier than thou. And my audience, I love my audience. My audience is not idiots, but we are the common man. We're the regular people. We're the bourbon balls. We're the fuck you in a bucket of goo. We're not the Einstein E=mc not squared show. We're not that. And so this guy had a real snooty, arrogant chip on his shoulder and a foreign accent. And you can't really open for me and be a condescending prick. It really, really doesn't work. So, kind of fun stuff happened with him on shows. He had a problem with time, not late, because I pick him up. Again, that's my mistake. He was a fucking nightmare, and I picked him up and drove him to the show. That shows you how fucking dumb I am. And we had to bring his stool. He was paranoid that they wouldn't have a stool. So we had to load up a stool in a teeny tiny little small car that we had, and lugged this fucking stool into wherever we were going. And he was supposed to do 20 to 30 minutes. That was it. I put him on a show, 30 minutes tops. He'd do a fucking hour. And I couldn't get him off the stage. I couldn't fucking get him off the stage. I'm flashing the lights. I'm fucking unplugging microphones. A fucking hour, and he had a fucking excuse every single night. Oh, we started late. Oh, I didn't know. I forgot my watch. I forgot my timer. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. He used to get laughs. And when he performed without me, it were the shitty rooms, and he didn't have my audience. You guys are fucking amazing. So this is a humble collection, but if you there's 15, 17, 20 of us here. If you put 100 of us together, that's my audience is fucking badass. And so if you're not used to a good audience, it's really tough to get off stage. In defense of him, if you're used to shitty audiences, when you got a fucking hot audience and they're laughing and they're with you and they're hanging, you can't fucking give that up. Lucky for me, when I started in 1991, season headliners that I love made sure that I understood to keep my time exactly what I was fucking hired for. 30 and off. 28 and fucking off. And it's a big finale. You orchestrate your show to have the fireworks and the big finale. That's what you do. So when you're in the pinnacle of comedy orgasm, and you gotta fucking shut it down and leave, that's a tall ask. But that lends itself to the cliche, always leave them wanting more. So this guy got so full of himself, and his girlfriend, they blindsided me. they were holding me hostage. They wanted more money from an opening act because he was getting laughs, and they wanted him to be able to do more time because 30 minutes wasn't enough. And then she believed people were paying to see him. I just started fucking laughing. I'm like, oh my god, you guys are completely fucking delusional. Um, and he had a business card, and his business card, when I was pissed off at him, I just fucking let him have it. I mean, like, dude, even your business card, you're a pretentious douchebag. It says like Dennis Miller, but without the attitude. And I told him, do you realize how much attitude you have to put another fucking comedian's name on your business card? I don't think Dennis Miller would be happy if he knew on your business card said, I'm like a nicer Dennis Miller. It's a fucking douchebag move. So that's what we were up against with him. He did an hour all the time. I just had to fucking stop him. And I cut him off. And then he begged to be on a show. And I made him sign and get shit notarized that he would be off that fucking stage in 30 minutes. And he did it that night. But then I used him again. And he went right back to his old fucking ways. So that was a bunch of happy horse shit. But turnabout is fair play. I always drove us because he had no car. I was Volkswagen Golf with the moonroof, not to be confused with the sunroof, which I couldn't tell the difference. So I would have, I have specific music that I listen to on the way to a show, or I'm now listening to audiobooks and all that shit. But I have jams, specific jams, and it's my show. I'm the headliner. It's my car. I'm driving, and so it's my music. So this guy, he wasn't didn't hold back on next show. We'll be listening to my music. And I'm like, well, are you gonna be driving us? No. Well, then we're not gonna be listening to your music. This isn't my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. You are a fucking passenger here, dude. And you're so that was some arrogant, weird shit going on with him. And then one of the other funny things was he had kind of like who was the beach Hasselhoff? Was it Hasselhoff, the beach actor? Those poofy hairdos from the 70s, whatever they were. He had poofy hairdo from the 70s, and so when the sunroof would be open and fucking Frank Zappa, Sparks, Captain Beefheart's jamming, his hair would be all over the place. So he wanted to. He tried to say it like to be cool by saying, maybe we can close this up so it doesn't ruin our hairdos. Dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Who has a hairdo? Do I look like I have a hairdo? Oh no, I put my fucking hat in the back so it doesn't blow out the window. So his days were definitely numbered, and the funnest thing that ever happened for me with him was he got disgusted with shit, and everything was beneath him. So it was me and him. We went down to a club in Philly where we didn't know the MC, and the MC was a puppet dude, a ventriloquist, and a ventriloquist to host a show is just a fucking stupid idea. But the ventriloquist, asked us for our intros, and I gave him my introduction. I don't remember what the hell it was. And this other guy, who shall remain nameless, he said, just say whatever you want. And the guy's 15, 20 minutes of bad puppet jokes, and he ran through all the different puppets, seemed like it was over because he was at his 15-minute mark. And we both thought he was introducing this guy who had told him just say whatever you want. And he goes, this next comedian coming to the stage is one of the worst, dumbest, stupidest performers I've ever had the displeasure of working with. Not funny, one waster, and I'm just smiling at him and back in there. Maybe next time you want to not be such a dick and write down an intro on a napkin or just a note and say, please do not say this. But it turns out the guy was introducing another puppet dummy, and that was really funny, way funnier than it. Maybe that's the kind of thing where you had to be there, but I got a kick out of it, I'll tell you that. And then there was another guy, another person that I can't say their name. Also, this next guy booked shows and he headlined himself. And if he didn't headline himself, he hosted the show, much like the guy who talked to the audience. And both of them got to meet Mrs. Comic, and both of them said to her, "Oh, you can do better than him." So I'm the headliner, so they insult me, and they also insult my wife because she's pretty fucking happy with me most of the time. But I thought it was funny that they both used the same line, and I threw it back at the second. I'm there, yeah, you know, so and so, he's a douchebag. Yeah, he said the exact same thing to my wife, so draw your own conclusions there. But that guy, now I'm going back to the early 90s. He had a lot of work, even though it was terrible work. And another comedian friend of mine, a headliner, said the money sucks all across the board, and they'll tell you it's 100, and they'll cheat you, and it'll be 75, or they won't pay you. That's really not what this is about now. It's stage time and getting there. So this guy never really paid. He always owed everybody on the show. There was like one or two behind, and he is the guy who told a story where he gave our hotel room away while our daughter was less than 2 years old in my arms. I'm like, dude, I don't fucking bring my wife and daughter along, and you tell me that I called you up and said I don't need a room. I'm not that fucking dumb. I'm not that fucking dumb. So he used to host these shows, and then one of them, it was going to be him hosting, me headlining, and actually a probably stereotypically wrong comedian I thought was funny at the time, Felipe Montana. So it was a nice clash of shows. This guy had kind of a New York thug thing going on. Felipe Montana, uh, stereotypical whatever. Probably was horrible, but we laughed. And then me, I was a show for shitty money out, and I'm gonna guess Chambersburg. And that's fucking 2 hour haul from here. So he tells me the day before that I have to be out in Chambersburg at 10 o'clock in the morning. 10 fucking o'clock in the morning for a $300 8 o'clock show. And I said, why? And he said, well, because it's part of the tour. We do the tour, we travel as a tour. It's me, you, and Felipe Montana. And we go to the radio station and do a spot. You didn't fucking tell me anything about radio, dude. I'll phone it in. No, it's a tour. That's the way we do it. We travel as a team, and we'll eat together. We'll do some promo and press. Look, there's no fucking tour, and the tour bus can't be your fucking car driving us all around, and I can't possibly be your hostage for a whole fucking day for $300. No fucking way. So I got out of being part of that tour, but he would seek his revenge on the night where he gave my hotel room away. That was a two-nighter up there. That's the guy who stole material from me Friday night and performed it Saturday night right in front of me. And I opened my show by saying, okay, I got a score to settle here. That piece of material that you laughed at a teeny tiny little bit, it's mine. I performed it last night. He fucking stole it. He fucking stole it right before me. And I'm going to perform it right now just to reclaim it. And I don't really give a fuck if you laugh or not, but I believe you will laugh louder because I know how to perform it because I wrote it. And even though I have created all this unnecessary tension right now, it's something I gotta fucking take care of. All right. So then I did that, and then of course he owed me for that gig and the previous one, and he didn't bring the money for the previous one. I said, why didn't you bring the money for the previous one? He said, well, I didn't think you wanted it tonight. Yes, because I really don't want the money tonight. I thought, yes, I'm working shit gigs, $300 a whack, and I thought it would be better for me if you held this money till I see you again in fucking October in fucking Chambersburg. The motherfucker, he always had his claw in, and then he'd get a hard luck story from this guy. So he threw himself. I'm gonna need fucking therapy after this show. Why am I fucking doing this to myself? Richter, I fucking blame you. I don't know why. He threw himself a birthday party comedy show, of which we were not getting paid too much because it was his birthday, right? So 10 comedians on the show. He emceed. Now, he didn't tell us there was fucking 10 comedians on the show. That's a fucking marathon. He did 10, 15 minutes in between fucking all of us. And again, he was supposed to have money. I did that thing to get my money from the other thing, knowing I wouldn't get money from this thing. So now, he's a terrible comedian. And about 2, 3 comedians in, me and a couple of other comedians that I knew, all remain nameless, we realized we were going to be held hostage because we were the headliners. We were the last bing bang boom of the show. He's doing 15 minutes in between us all, and we're on comedian number 2. It's already 9:30. This fucker's going at least till midnight. So that was horrible. And then, for like his 4th or 5th appearance, and with all those comedians, you think one time he would just say, "Hey, we're going to keep the show moving." You've seen those, and then let's hear it for it. No, none of those. He didn't miss a trick, and he went up there and he had on a long black leather coat, which none of us had seen the whole night. It just was now 4 comedians in, long black leather coat, and we were waiting to hear about the joke about the long black leather coat, which never came up. He just decided, now I'm going to do Lady Gaga, I'm going to do a wardrobe change, and pow, boom. So then we got paranoid that she was going to be doing fucking wardrobe changes all night long. So I'm definitely going to need a lot of fucking therapy. And this fucker also, he did get me, he booked me in Florida. But that fucked us too. I was given, and I tried to like the guy. I did. I really bent my pricing so I could go to Florida. And me and Mrs. Comic, the plan was this. We were going to drive down, have fun, drove PT, Smurf Blue PT Cruiser, and we were going to have a week of club hopping in different towns, working our way eventually to Daytona Beach. And then there'd be a split, and then that was the second half of the tour. Whatever was happening before then was going to happen a whole week. So I lost the whole week of shows. Now it didn't seem like it was a good idea to drive down there because we were going to fucking lose money. And our daughter was growing up. She was going to fly down and meet us in between, because I was going to have all this money from 2 weeks of gigs and meet us, and we'd go to Disney or Harry Potter World, whatever the fuck. So that turned to shit. We didn't do that. And then I was given a check, which made me go fucking crazy, because I usually don't take checks, out of state check. This guy's a little shady. So I was yelling at him about that, and he informed me that he definitely told me I was getting a check, because he tells everybody they're getting a check. So therefore I am wrong. And again, I'm not that fucking crazy. I didn't give my room away, and I know he didn't tell me. I could have planned on it. I absolutely could have planned on it. So now I come back with a check, and I'm really fucking mad. I've needed this. We needed this money. You know how I've always needed money. So this was badly needed money. And the check was going to have to clear in Pennsylvania, drawn on a Florida bank. What could go wrong? I will tell you what could go wrong. My amazing brother-in-law, Jack the plumber, felt bad for me, and so he had me sign this check over to him, and he gave me like fucking $1,000 for this thing. It cost us probably $500 to make the trip, and the check bounced. Now he gets madder than I. He was fully prepared for me and him to drive to Florida and feed this fucker to the alligators. So when I called him up, the guy who bounced a check on me, I said, okay, here's the problem. You got to overnight this money because my brother-in-law spotted me the money, so the check actually bounced on him. So then I got an earful from him about how it wasn't his fault and he got dicked over, and all these other more famous comedians than me also had checks bounced. So you always had a problem that was bigger than mine. And boy, I'll tell you, someday I'll say what his name is, but I'm not going to say it right now. That's a problem with my book, according to some comedians, they really want comedians want the bad names of bad people in the book, and I don't want to write a book like that, but I can still tell the stories, and then that lends itself to. Uh, I used to do. I'm still doing them. I used to do the fire hall fundraiser shows, but there was. I'm thinking early '90s, mid '90s. There was a hot ticket for a fire hall show. They could pay me what I wanted. They could sell a $20 ticket, and tap beer would be included on the ticket, which turned out to be also one of the worst marketing comedy night business moves any because think of and that wasn't me, that was the fire hall. They'd have tap beer, $20 ticket, tap beer. So when you pay $20 and you're up in the mountains and you're paying $20 for all the tap beer you can drink at night, a lot of these drunken asses didn't even realize that I was part of the show. It was just, hey, who's that asshole talking in the microphone with a black hat fucking up my drink? And they just went for $20 for all the beer you can drink is a thing. But everything went wrong with that. If you can get a free pitcher of beer, you fill it up, and then you drink it, and then it's warm, then you dump it, then you go get another. It was just fucking drinking these fire halls out of house and home. One of them was a fundraiser in this town, beer on a ticket, and it was for a female girls' youth sports group, gymnastics possibly, and people were funneling into the parking lot. They go out, they be in, and they get their drink, they get their pitcher of beer. Then they go out in the parking lot to have a cigarette, and they gave their ticket stub to some other asshole who came in and get the beer because they fucking went to like fucking 10 kegs of beer. And nobody fucking tells me this shit until afterwards. I wasn't gonna fucking pay for that, but then we did have an extra fundraiser that night by me just telling people just kick some money in so we can pay for this stolen beer. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need some therapy sessions after this goes on. Let's see here now. I know. This goes back to the guy who lived in town who had the stool and the hairdo and it didn't understand what time was. After he broke his probation and did an hour the next time, I went fucking postal and he actually cocked off to me and he said, comedy is all about laughter. You didn't want me to stop the laughter, did you? And I'm, because I am smart mouthing, by your own logic, you should be allowed to stay on stage until you're the guy with his pants down in a boxer shorts who gets no fucking laughs at all. That's not the agreement that we have. Just perform till nobody fucking laughs anymore. No, it's not about stopping the laughter. It's about you're the fucking warm-up act. Do your fucking 30. Shut the fuck up and don't make trouble. And your hairdo fucking sucks anyway. So if you could, Mrs. Comic, if you could arrange a Skype therapy session, because I'm definitely going to need it. Get me the newest appointment that you possibly can. Going back to, I had some comedians that were on my show that I love, and it's just basically people.
This is a reminder. It's 8:15 and it's time to wrap this thing up, Mr. Amish Comedian.
But Bumps just told me to wrap it up. So I had a gaggle of comedians I really loved, who loved me and would open for me for mediocre money. And they did their 30 and they were happy with their $200. It was gas money. They wanted to perform new material in front of a packed house, fun crowd. One of the people I really liked was Sonia King. Sonia King was a deadpan comedian, real fucking commitment to go slow and deadpan it and have things suck and you don't panic. Because if you panic and then you speed up, you ruin the whole I talk slow because I'm from Popham County, like in the best dog show movie. So she had one of the greatest heckler lines I've ever seen in my life, because female comedians are going to be subjected to guys yelling out, "Show us your tits" and all this shit. It's a tough. Show business is tough on women. Make no mistake. So her show was going good, but not phenomenal. But she stayed committed to it. And then the drunken ass started yelling shit out. And instead of yelling at him, she turned and she looked at him and tried to bond with him. And she said, "Knock, knock." He said, "Who's there?" Shut the fuck up. That was hilarious. That was the best knock knock joke I'd ever heard. Sonia King, knock knock, who's there? Shut the fuck up. Boom, roasted. That's a badass line right there. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Tonight's show was about. I know there's a lot more. There's absolutely a lot more. Um, fun memories for me because it goes back to the stories of Bearman and Keith. I was just starting out in the basement of the Radisson Hotel, and other comedians that liked me warned me that as I started to move up the ranks, regular comedians coming in on their show would start to not like me because if the MC is getting laughs or the feature is getting laughs, that makes it suck for the headliner. I never got that. If I have an opening act, I want them to fucking kick ass. I want them to I want my audience to love who's ever on that fucking show with me. That way I inherit a happy audience and I can coast, I can ride a wave for about 30 seconds to 90 seconds. I don't have to do much except go, but then you gotta bring it. And the fella who's possibly going to the Harrisburg show, Jay, one of the worst guest appearances I've ever seen was in that Harrisburg room. It was an older guy, and he thought he was like a vaudeville comedian. I don't really know. I think he just spent a lot of fucking money at this restaurant. A metric fuck ton of money. I think he brought his corporate Christmas parties there. I think he was a fucking high roller, and he begged the Australians who bought the club, the Boomerang Club, to let him do a guest set on the show. And the better clubs don't really do guest sets because it's like fucking amateur hour. So I happened to be there that night, and I didn't know about this geezer. I love my geezers, but this fucker, he was fucking raw and foul and dropping the C word and all this just terrible, horrible, cringe comedian stuff from the fucking old geezer. And it flatlined, and he was completely clueless. Comedians that suck usually blame the audience. Oh, they're just a stupid audience. They didn't totally fucking get it. So luckily, that guy will never be there again, at least not on my night. So that's continues my memories of bad, horrible things that happened to me. Let's see. Oh, I know what I'm doing here. Again, I got back into a rhythm to try to write a little bit more stories from the eventual book. I really fucking stalled on that, but this thing called trying to make money for us to live and eat took precedent over sitting and writing a book. It's horror season now. We read horror, we watch horror. Horror author Grady Hendrix, who has a great comedic mind, fast, fun horror. He just was part of a release. Let me see if I can find it here. Whoever reads horror, this is absolutely kind of amazing. Creature Feature was just released Kindle. It's a series, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. I think they're 99 cents a pop. Or if you have Kindle Unlimited, they're all free. Grady Hendrix is the ankle snatcher, which I read today, which freaked me the fuck out because of our recent experience with Caesar, who was up in a tree had a passion for our nipping at our ankles. So I really didn't need to read anything called Ankle Snatcher, but that's fantastic. And then The Pram, which I'm going to read next, that's Joe Hill. That's Stephen King's son. That's going to be a great read. And this Paul Tremblay guy, I know him. That's just great. So there's great horror to read right now. I don't usually read too many short stories, but if you can get a good horror pop in an hour or less, that's fantastic. Grady Hendrix puts fun in it, and I found myself, I told Mrs. Comic, I can't remember the line, I laughed at a really horrible part, and I was almost embarrassed, and I'm like, what, that's Grady Hendrix, he wanted me to laugh at that part, that's why that's in there, but I don't know if he wanted me to laugh that bad. I might not have the confidence to tell him, but I laughed at that part whenever I see him again, in case he didn't think that part was funny. So that's what we're doing right there. And also, I'm going to plug my, where is it? Kutztown rescheduled date. They're still dragging their fucking feet. If they don't get the contract in on this soon, I will set that fucking fire hall on fire. I will fucking do it. This is the second one. The motherfuckers. There's my TikTok. Get on over there. And here it says Mary, but I know she's not in there. There is my day after Christmas Sellersville Theater. We Survived the Holidays therapy show, Boxing Day. It's fucking great. It is just a wonderful night. Comfy seats in the theater, professional sound, professional lights. It's just a nice theater feel. That's a show I would get to if I were gonna see me. Um, let's see, but that's pretty much it. I got Harrisburg coming up in November. I believe I have Kutztown Fire Company coming up December 2nd. And oh, I was telling you, I want to finish up with a couple of, not a couple, just one story here. Back to my stories on the book. When the Barber passed away, is it a year, 2 years? I think it's 2 years now.
2 years.
It'll be 2 years. Amazing man. He is the going to be in a lot of stories. His widow is Skip. She's phenomenal. She has a great sense of humor, and so I'm trying to write the Win the Barber stories first to get him to her because she's all excited about it. So now, this is the guy I would compare him to Floyd the Barber on Mayberry RFD, mashed up with like Sweeney Todd and maybe a little Pee Wee Herman. Really a cliche barbershop in the finest sense, but it was in a business office, so you didn't get to see it, all this and that shit. So he cut people's hair by appointment, and he loved me, so he, with his scissors on their ear, with a blade on their face, he'd get them to book me for parties. Now, and in those days, I'm going back to early 90s, it would have been the summer, hot fucking August day, Saturday, Peck's Pond. I was going to make $300. That's more than headliners were getting to do full weekends at the comedy club that I was working at. So he picked me up and he drove me up to the Poconos Saturday in his Lincoln, and because I was a dumbass, I don't have any alcohol before I perform now. When I get home, that's a different story. Quite a few years now, but in those days, I like to have a light beer. It was a crutch, just to wet my whistle, chill my nerves out. I think I wanted it in my hand as much as if I was going to drink it. So I have a can of light beer in my hand. I'm riding in the front of the Cadillac, and Win the Barber's driving me up to Peck's Pond. If you've driven through the Poconos, there's stretches where it collapses to like a one-lane highway, like Route 100, and there's no off-roads. You're there till you get to the next thing. There's no, and that's it. And when anything bad happened up there, traffic-wise, it come to a fucking screeching halt, and you could see all the hotels that advertised the heart-shaped hot tub in the room, mirrors on the ceiling would be on the signs, and also snake and reptile farms, which I didn't fucking understand the appeal of the snake and reptile farms at all. If you just get out of your fucking car in the Poconos, you can walk around and find snakes and fucking reptiles. You don't have to go into a fucking gift shop. So to the appeal, the people who go into these fucking things, just and not just one. There's another one. So now I'm excited. I gotta meet. When the barber's gonna take us to a checkpoint, which is a parking lot of a little mini market, because where we were going was deep in the woods and it was a road that wasn't even fucking paved. So the lady who booked me, I think her name is Emily. I'm not exactly sure. There's Skip. I texted Skip about this, and I think it's Emily. Booked me for this pig roast, and I said, when I went to curse and shit. She said, oh yeah, that's fine. That's grown ups there, drinking and partying. So now we come to a screeching halt. And I'm really fucking mad, and I open my beer in the car, and I just start fucking pissing and moaning. I'm like, this is just fucking great. It's 2:45. The traffic isn't fucking moving. There's no fucking way we're gonna make it to that market by 3 o'clock. Emily's gonna show up. She's gonna think I fucked her over and dicked her, and then she's gonna fucking leave, and that's gonna be it. And fuck me in a bucket of goo. And unbeknownst to me, uh, also this might be a Pennsylvania thing. When traffic's backed up like that, people just got out of their cars. They'd leave their car and he'd just get out, the driver, and he'd just fucking walk down the road a little bit to see what the problem was. And then I started getting mad at that. I'm like, that's fucking great. If he starts to move again, we can't even drive because that fucking asshole ain't even in his fucking car. Just then, I noticed that what was that?
It was the early 90s.
It was the early 90s, that's right. And so there was no escape routes up there. And just then, I heard a fella say, is everything okay in there? And I looked over, and my window was half down. There was a policeman on a motorcycle, not driving. He just decided that I was something that he needed to deal with. So now, I am not afraid that I have an open beer in my hand at all. He said, is there a problem in there? And I said, yes. And I fucking let him have it. I just told him everything I just told you. I'm supposed to meet Emily in the parking lot at 5:03 in the market, but this traffic fucked me, and I won't be able to perform. I won't get the $300. They're going to be pissed off at me. I'll have a bad reputation. I won't get any more private work from this. This is the worst fucking thing here. And then he wanted to make sure when the barber wasn't being held by a serial killer, me. So he leaned in and he said, is this story true? Is this accurate? And Wynn said, yeah, we're going up to, and he knew the name of the market. We're going up to Millie's Market, and then we got to go into this road. It cuts through, and it's state game land, so we can't just drive it. And the cop goes, oh, I know exactly where that is. Here, I'll get you there. And we got a fucking police escort down the shoulder of the road with a motorcycle cop, with Wynn the barber, driving a silver Cadillac with me with an open beer in my fucking hand, and that is a poor man's version of a fucking limousine ride to fucking Carnegie Hall for an HBO special. I couldn't fucking believe it. Then I realized I had an open beer, and I thought, I'm calming down now. I would like to sip this, but what if the cop has a rear view mirror? He says, hey, you really shouldn't have the fucking beer. Because the beer was like a fucking non-issue. Go figure. So he got us to the parking lot, and then I thanked him, and he was such a nice guy. And we got there a couple minutes before Emily. And Wynn the barber, why he's all over my book. Wynn, at the base of everything, sweet man, but a prankster. A prankster where there were no victims. It's a lost art. There wouldn't be a pie in the face, but you might think that you sat in the pie, but you didn't actually really sit in the pie. That was Wynn the barber. So he thought this up, and we didn't even really have too much discussion about it. He said, let's torment her a little bit when she pulls in. Like, you fall out of the car and pretend you're drunk. And I didn't even ask any questions. I'm like, I fucking got it. I mean, what the hell? Wynn the barber, my chauffeur, my limo driver, with police escort, who booked me for this thing, why would I question him? I'm just going to do whatever the fuck he'd like me to do. So Emily pulls in. I don't know who Emily is yet. And before her car can get parked, I opened the door and I fell out, and I let my open beer be sacrificed to the stones of the parking lot because the effect was fucking phenomenal. Having a beer pouring out, and she was so upset she didn't even bother to park her car. She stopped on a rakish angle. She got out of the car and she came running over, and like clockwork, wind leaped out of the car to head off her question. And she said, "What's wrong with him anyway?" "Oh, he's drunk. Don't worry about a thing." And she said, "Well, I'm not going to pay him." He said, "Don't worry about a thing." And he took my hat off my head. He goes, "I know it's show. I can perform the whole thing." And he fucking really sold it. And then she said, "I'm not paying you if this dumbass is doing my show." And that's also not the end of the story. So now, somehow we let her off the hook. Somehow she taxied us into the pig roast, where again I wanted to verify that I was allowed to curse at this pig roast because I didn't get paid yet. And if you curse when you're not supposed to curse, you should only do that if you've been paid already. So I wasn't paid yet, and I'm banging off sheep, and I'm "fuck you" in a bucket of goo, and everybody's laughing. I said something, and you could hear a fucking pin drop. And I didn't even try to do the next thing to see if the bit sucked, because I knew the bit was solid. I knew based on everything they'd laughed at before, that one should have fucking hit. So I called them out, and I said, "All right, time out, help me here. I was banging off sheep, scalpel sucking sluts, masturbating Mennonite, fuck you in a bucket of goo. We were having a wonderful time. And now, all of a sudden, you're going to shun me." Now I said something to piss you off, and I don't know what it is. I just wish somebody would tell me what the fucking rules are. And calmly they said, "It's not you, there's a bear behind you." So fucking bear behind me, sniffing around the pig roast, and the motherfuckers didn't tell me there's a bear. They wanted to see where this adventure would unfold. I'm there. Fuck me in a bucket of goo. It's intermission. As it turns out, the bear was kind of heavily drugged, which would have been nice for them to tell me. "Caution, during this performance, heavily drugged bears might wander onto the stage." But it's that they drugged them with donuts so they could tag them and give them shots and make sure they were healthy and all that shit. But I learned that way too late. That is one of many Win the Barber stories. And in another time zone, we both got arrested for having an open beer in the car. Those were the good old days, and I hope that I helped your Tuesday not suck as much as it would have if we weren't all here. I love you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm fairly confident I will be back next Tuesday at 7:30. You fuckers are amazing. We do this. There's a show plug. Mrs. Comic loves you all and is always happy to see you in the chat. And let's see here. Where is it? I lost my thing that says ending soon. We'll just go with "be right back," even though that's a lie. Signing off. Fuck you in a bucket of goo. Richter, it is bourbon.